What is up, everybody?
Oh, that's a new opening.
I know, right? Welcome to the Brutiful Game. I am definitely not Blake.
Nope.
I am Ferris. Hola. And I'm here tonight with my U.S. men's national team watching soccer today, buddy, Ron.
What's happening?
Once again, work kind of getting in the way for Mr. Blake, so we want to make sure that we get a pod out this week, and he's taking care of some stuff and enjoyed the game earlier and saw the score and some of the highlights and stuff. And Ron and I went over to a local brewery in the area at Gatlin Hall and watched that game today.
Quite tasty beers and food at that place if you've never been.
Awesome. Had the sound on and the whole nine, and there was a few other groups there that were cheering on our U.S. men that were back at the World Cup first time in 8 years.
Woohoo!
So we will certainly be discussing that in their first game against Wales today, as well as the rest of the action from Group A and Group B, as there was a Group A match today and then all of Group B. And we, of course, we're already going to be talking about it, but some early VAR officiating decisions that are head scratchers, to say the least.
It's coming. There's going to be more.
Yeah, especially after such a good World Cup in 2018 with VAR. So
yeah,
interesting. And then we'll pass it over to the Sultan of Sausage as he works to wonder us woefully on the latest beer news coming out of the World Cup in this edition of Ron's Beer News, before we finally close out the pod with previewing the Black Friday's matchup between the U.S. men's national team and England.
Ugh. I'm scared and excited all at the same time.
Yeah, same. But first, we wouldn't be the Brutiful Game without a little beer. And Ron, what we got tonight?
Okay, so in light of our match today against Wales, I found a beer from a pretty popular brewery here in the States called Clown Shoes Brewing Company.
We've had them on the pod before.
Yep, they're out of Boston, Massachusetts. And this beer is a barley wine called Crunkle Sam. Mostly, I like the name because that's pretty much what the U.S. men's national team did in the second half of their match today. They just crunkled.
Yeah, like on the cover, it has all of these like modern day, or not modern day, but like old timey Uncle Sam looking clowns or jesters in American like stars and stripes.
Yeah, and they're like doing parkour and craziness. This is an American barley wine aged in bourbon barrels, and it's tipping the ABV scale at 10.5%. We only need one of these.
Yeah.
From their website and on the can, it says, "Get ready to dance like nobody's watching and be wowed by the sheer spectacle that is Crunkle Sam. The judges have no more thumbs to give, and America has voted. His troop is unstoppable. Equally astounding is Crunkle's signature barley wine." So this should probably be a pretty malty, have a malty sweetness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little subdued barrel flavors from that bourbon. And then there should be some hop flavor in there. So this is...
I've had a barley wine in forever.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to snag.
Absolutely.
But we should crack it.
Shall we? All right.
Ooh. Pour this one out. Pours nice.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of slightly on that ambery side, a nice foam head texture of kind of small bubbles. So that tells me the lacing on the inside of the glass should be pretty good. Smells incredible. Ooh, get a little bit of that bourbon.
Yes, you do.
Oh, right there at the...
Ooh, no.
You don't get it right away. It's kind of like just a second late. Oh, this is going to be...
You can smell it's that bourbon booze smell.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is going to be good.
All right.
Little malty sweetness smell.
Look at that. Picture perfect.
That's good. Cheers.
Launch my friend. Oh man, that's boozy.
Ooh. But you know that booze flavor like dies out. Your kind of finish is
you're right.
like caramelly sweetness at the end. It's got a little bit of a like kind of slippery mouthfeel to it. The booze hits you right off the top.
Just smack dab.
Yeah, that's just a punch in the face in the beginning. And then it really, the caramel, I still taste caramel notes. Like,
it has that kind of, that caramel, like,
Yeah, it's quite good.
Not like sticky taste, but like a little bit of that where it's just kind of sitting there and not going away.
Yeah.
And like barley wines could put you anywhere from what? 10 to 16% on some.
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of depends.
Yeah.
And Clown Shoes is known for some of their
they do a lot of good off the wall type beers.
Yeah. And high ABV type beers as well. And this is definitely right up their alley. And you have this, and you're like, oh, that's okay. That's your Clown Shoes.
Yeah, your typical barley wines are anywhere between 8 and 12 ABV normally. But like you said, Clown Shoes and some other breweries do a bit more. I'm actually surprised this is only 10.5%, considering it was
aged in bourbon barrels.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't get extra alcohol from it. You would just kind of imbibe the flavors of that inside. But typically, the things like the quads or the Belgian Strongs or any of those kind of malt heavy beers that they age in whiskey or bourbon barrels, typically, I mean, it's like a punch in the face with, the alcohol content. And really on this one, you do taste it, but it's more that you taste the bourbon up front.
Yes.
Not the alcohol.
Yeah, it's not so much a punch in the face. It's more like a strong backhand to your face or your taste buds.
It works out quite well. It's a good beer.
It does. Nice sipping beer. Obviously, not going to fly through this. We're not going to crack a second unless things go really off the walls here. But no, this is damn
good job, Clown Shoes.
Good old Crunkle Sam. Speaking of the Uncle Sams and the Crunkle Sams and all sorts of Sams, I don't think we have a Sam on the U.S. men's national team.
Not that I'm aware of.
But the U.S. men's national team played out a 1-1 draw today against Wales in their opening match of the World Cup. For the first time in 8 years, the U.S. men are back in the tournament, and for the first time in 64 years. Much longer of a run than the U.S. The Wales are back in it. And both of these teams kicked off their World Cup journeys at the Ahmad bin Allah Stadium in front of 43,000 and several million watching around the world. The U.S. men, and I think in most people's opinion and most commentary that you'll see, were by far the better of the two teams in the first half as they controlled the game in their opponent's half and really bossed possession throughout the first 45. It was in the 36th minute where the U.S. men's national team right winger Timothy Weah calmly slotted a ball home with the outside of his boot by way of a lovely through ball by Captain America himself, Christian Pulisic.
It was quite a good goal, and the build-up was probably the best build-up of the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
For Weah to take that ball on the outside of his boot, I kind of a step early, right? To kind of make sure the defender couldn't catch up to him, and also to beat the keeper. He takes it.
And kind of sent him the other way, because in that situation, you're expecting him to slot it the other way, not take it with the outside of the boot and ping it to his right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I could see it coming a mile away that on his next step, he was going to take the shot. And then that shot went a step early. And I think that definitely threw the defender and the keeper at the time as well.
Yeah. Agreed. And this was no Dempsey shot from the outside that kind of, bounced off of Rob Green and he kind of fumbled that in. No, this was a very well worked goal, very well taken goal. And the U.S. men went into halftime up 1-0 over Wales. And you always thought coming out of half, Wales is going to come at the U.S. in the second. They're not going to sit back as much. They're not really going to kind of absorb some of what they were in the first half. You expected them to be better coming in the second half because there's 3 games to get out of the group.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of time of, okay, we can,
as it
no
turns
urgency
out,
in this match. Yeah, as it turns out.
As it turns out, maybe the U.S. men's national team did not think that that Wales was going to come out any different in the second half.
Right. But both teams made, the U.S. men's team, I should say, made no subs. The Wales team put on the big lad, 6'5", Kiefer Moore, who plays for Bournemouth in the Premier League. And, he gave them a different aspect. They kind of huffed it up to him. He caused Walker Zimmerman and Tim Reams some issues. He played the ball well down to his teammates. He had some cheeky little passes in there, had a couple of headed chances, not on goal, but in and around goal. And it was just Wales pushing for majority of that half. And it was late in the game, and you're thinking, okay, all the U.S. got to do is just hang on. Well, in the 82nd minute, a challenge from Walker Zimmerman on Gareth Bale in the box was rightly deemed a penalty kick.
Yeah, it was definitely a penalty. And I kind of think a dumb penalty at that.
Agreed. Yeah, not a very good challenge in the box there. And, of course, Bale stepped up and just hammered it home, making it 1-1, and that's how it would end.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And, of course, it's Gareth Bale.
Yeah, right.
That guy essentially did nothing all game.
Yeah.
And then shows up to, one, put the pressure on right at the time it's needed.
Yep.
To net his team a PK, and then slots it home. And the keeper on that penalty, Matt Turner, guessed correctly, but nothing was stopping that bullet. I mean, Bale just buried it.
Hit with pace, curving always away, try to hit the side netting, and just it was a beautiful free kick. That was 64 years.
Penalty kick.
Penalty kick. That was 64 years in trying to come to fruition for Wales. And what we say it was a dumb challenge from Zimmerman, who all both him and Ream had pretty good games actually. Yeah. I think some naivety here with Zimmerman making that challenge is you got to realize the situation that you're in. You're in the 82nd minute. You're only up 1-0.
Yeah.
You got to see the game out. You don't want to do anything stupid that could cost that. And what he did was Bale's back is 2-goal in the box. So he's not like he's face fronting goal and can have a shot at it. You would still have to turn or still have to make a move. So what you want to teach here, what you really want to do here is get tight to Bale, but don't go in with that challenge to try to win the ball.
Yeah. You want to be touch tight in that instance, and you want to kind of watch out for that dropping shoulder for the side that they're going to turn to, right? And then you want to try and keep that pressure on them so they don't get a shot away. And if they do, you are in the way of that shot.
Yeah.
But that is not
or
what he...
to at least hold up to allow others to come in and kind of help you. And what, Bale playing it very smartly, expected contact with your back towards goal. You expect somebody to be in and around you, but I don't think he fully expected that Zimmerman would basically come essentially through his legs to try to get the ball. And it was a foul. There's no argument there. And I think the more concerning thing with this match was it was a draw that felt like a loss from our end.
Oh, most
probably, right? But there was no change at halftime. It's like Berhalter said, lads, here's the plan. We'll play a 4-3-3. You're going to put Way out on the right, Pulisic out on the left, and Josh Sargent got the start in this one.
Yep.
Backline was pretty what we thought with Jedi Robinson. Tim Ream got the start. Hasn't played a minute of World Cup qualifying up to this point.
Right.
But you thought he was going to get the start just on form and why he was brought in. Walker Zimmerman and then Serginho Dest, which is a little bit of a surprise, a little bit more of attacking. But it's like Berhalter went, okay, here's what we're doing. We're doing 4-3-3. You have the Musa, Adams,
A McKinney.
Yeah. McKinney midfield, and that worked extremely well in the first half. We have not bossed a game like that in a long time. Could argue we should have created more, and yeah, that's probably true, but we got a goal out of that. To say we should have been up 2-0 at half, I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think we had that amount of chances to be up 2-0. There was a nice one early on by Josh Sargent that hit the outside of the post.
Right.
So maybe you can say, okay, 2-0, but not a lot created. But
our three greatest chances were the goal that was scored, the Sargent ping off the post, and then the almost own goal.
Yes, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Those
exactly,
were the three best chances
yeah.
we had the entire match.
Yeah, exactly. And so they did create, but more so there was a lot of balance in the team. They balanced that attack with not giving Wales the chance to break on a counter or even have the option to do that. The U.S. high pressed almost up, so the defenders, are almost or they were at midfield and pushed Wales all the way back into their zone.
Yeah.
And Wales was pretty okay with being there, but then when the U.S. men lost possession, they were kind of all over Wales and cutting those options out to allow them to play out a fast ball to Baylor or James or anybody like that.
Or stop the counter. I mean, even before it got out of their zone, right? Like they were positioning themselves well to cut out passes and kind of pre-see, if you will, the counterattack pattern starting.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So what do Wales do at half? Let's put on the big man, which I'm surprised he didn't get the start to begin with.
Yeah, that was curious.
But that changes the dynamic a bit, right? You're able to if you're gonna equate it to American football, in order to pass the ball in the air, your run game has to be established, right? Your passing games would be more effective if they think there's a possibility you're going to run right up the gut. Well, in the first half, Wales trying to play balls in on the ground to Bale or to James or any of those, and we can cut those out. Second half, let's hoof the ball up in the air to the big man. Open it up a little bit more. He can then hold up play a little bit more. He can then play some people in around him, and that's what they did. And the U.S. didn't adapt.
Nope, not at all.
Which I don't think it's a bad thing for the U.S. to come out in that second half and not make a change substitution-wise. I think the team was playing good. Nobody looked overly tired. McKinney was an injury doubt coming into this because of a thigh injury, but seemed to be okay, and it was good. But you didn't adapt out of it once you realized a few minutes into the second that, okay, Wales is starting to push that momentum their way by that one sub and how they can kind of run things through him and get a little bit more bodies in and behind him.
Right. But to be honest, we came out on the weaker side on that. We started the second half kind of bright with the ball. And then once we kind of got pushed back into our zone, we basically were just kind of listless after that.
Yeah.
We seemed to lose the hunger that we had in the first half of, being first to the ball, challenging hard for those second balls. Mm-hmm. We kind of lost all that. And at many points in the match, and I forget what pundit said it, but it almost looked like the whistle had blown and everybody stopped play. Right? There were so many times where one person had the ball and everyone was just standing around.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you can look at the first sub from us as Berhalter's trying to put some, ignite a little bit of creativity into the team with a Brendan Aronson sub in the 66 for Weston McKennie. Now, my argument to that is I would do anything I could to keep the midfield of McKennie, Musa, and Adams intact.
He should have subbed him out for Sargent.
Right. I think if you're going to do that with Aronson, I get you're going to try to get more creativity, but it's like I'm trying to think. It's like having a, and not that they were necessarily playing this exact way, but this is just the analogy I'm going to use. It's like having that three-headed triangle in midfield with Adams sitting in that number 6 role, and then McKennie and Musa sitting in front of him, right? That the triangle's intact. You have a nice looking triangle, it's all intact. Now you take McKennie out of that and you put in Aronson. Well, Aronson's going to be a little bit more freer. He's going to try to create more and he's going to try to push more as essentially a number 10 and not kind of sit back and be more of a box to box, which is what McKennie is. So you do that. Now your triangle gets more of like an obtuse triangle. In an obtuse triangle, those points are going to be greater between. So more space for Wales to play into. And that's what kind of happened. I mean, Brendan Aronson was doing everything he could to try to create something. He would ping balls off of defenders and kind of sneakily do that, but you kind of lose a little bit of that formation there.
Right.
So it didn't really change what Wales was doing.
Yeah.
You know, your goal is to make a change to then counteract what their change was at half.
Right.
And that didn't seem to happen here.
Right. Or you're trying to make a change that, much like they did to us, unsettles.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
how you don't necessarily, I mean, this is why the strategy of the game goes on and on and on, but you don't necessarily have to counter what they're doing, but you have to do something that then allows your team to adapt, to get some control on the ball, and then create in the final third. I think the thing we did not do for most of the match was create in the final third.
Yeah. And, I think Berhalter's idea of putting in Aronson was to create in the final third, but I think that was more detrimental here because of what just described with that three-headed midfield that was doing so well in the game.
Right. I guess the question that I have is, the subs that he made from an attacking standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't Reina in?
Well, and that's a question. He's injury prone, coming off of not necessarily an injury, but has only played a few games for Dortmund prior to the break. There was some mixed reporting that we had saw and heard after the match that he wasn't entirely fit for selection because he wasn't warming up on the sidelines and kind of just sat on the bench, which is an indication that you're not really don't have a shot at playing if you're not doing your kind of pre on the sidelines there,
right.
Back and forth and ups and all that. I don't know. So then the subs after that, to kind of go through the subs, were DeAndre Yedlin for Serginho Dest. Okay. Dest hasn't played a whole lot.
Right. Had an early yellow.
Yeah, Yedlin's been in camp longest. He's the kind of the only other one that's played in a World Cup, and a little bit more defensive, but can still get forward a bit. Haji Wright for Josh Sargent. Okay, like for like, you're trying to still have somebody that can score goals in there. And then Kellen Acosta for Yunus Musa. Now, Musa went off because of injury. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Right. That would be a devastating loss if we lose him. He is, in my opinion, that a key player in this team in general. And then in the 88th minute, after Pulisic had gotten kind of knocked around a bit, it was very CONCACAF-esque where they were kind of always taking a shot at him.
Yeah.
Not anything dirty, not anything overly nasty, but just little clips here, a foot to the shin here, and like those type of things that are just kind of annoying and put you on the ground every time, right?
Yep.
So,
to be honest, that's going to be his life at the World Cup.
Yeah.
Right? Because he doesn't have, honestly, I don't think he has all that many outlets to take the pressure off of him. Right? So everybody keeps calling Christian P the Captain America, and all of our advertising about the U.S. men's national team is got Pulisic in it. Every team we play is going to be hard on him.
Yeah.
And the other teammates are going to have to step up more so than they do to kind of relieve some of that pressure for him, because they won't be knocking him about if they're worried about other people on the team. But at this time, they're really not.
Yeah. I think Berhalter kind of has to realize that as well. And as much as you want to keep him on the field, that he might be able to play a ball the way he did or nick a ball the way he did, you want to make sure he plays all 3 games.
Yep.
And in the 88th minute, he wasn't necessarily bringing anything that was going to be helpful. At least he hadn't up until that point.
He was done.
He was tired. He was gassed. He was getting beat up. So then instead of Jordan Morris coming on for him, he comes on for Timothy Weah.
Right.
Who really didn't do a whole lot the second half as well, but a little bit more speed, wasn't getting those kind of hits, those kind of runs done at him, right? And I was trying to find the quote, but it was something along the lines of a quote from Berhalter, that is. It was something along the lines of, we put Morrison over Reyna because, or he was asked, why not put in Reyna instead of Jordan Morris?
Right.
And his response was something along the lines of, Jordan offered more pace and power.
Yeah, speed and power.
For the occasion. Okay. I understand the reasoning a bit, but Jordan Morris didn't really have a good second half of the season with Seattle. Yeah, he's coming off an injury that took him out for the first half of the MLS season. Surprise inclusion in the squad. Was he really going to offer you something from that right side that Gio Reyna couldn't play 10 minutes on, 15 minutes on?
Yeah.
Anything different?
So I totally agree with him from the power standpoint.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Right. That's what, yes.
But not the speed standpoint. Right? I think Jordan Morris is probably faster in a straight off the shoulder run.
Yeah.
But this team was, with the exception of one entire buildup in the entire match, we didn't play anything off the shoulder.
Yeah. Nobody's burning down and getting pace in behind.
So if he's trying to switch to that, they forgot to tell the rest of the team because not a single ball was like a frisky ball through to him or one over the top that he was making an off shoulder run. That didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, you may as well have put Reyna in because that's the way the whole team has been set up. Let him dribble around.
Exactly.
Let him go 1v1.
Exactly. He's going to create more. He's going to keep that ball at his feet, keep the possession.
Pull somebody off Pulisic. Let Pulisic make those runs from the corner that he's so good at.
Yep.
The last 15 minutes of the match, I was just kind of scratching my head the whole time.
Yeah. And, I mean, we're Monday morning quarterbacking this year, or Monday night quarterbacking.
Okay, but
I know
you and I are avid watchers of the game.
Yes,
for a long time.
Correct.
Granted, I don't know anything about coaching. I don't know anything about managing.
You and me both.
I don't know anything about that.
Yep.
I play soccer, so I understand a little bit.
Yep.
A tiny bit of what it would be like, and I can extrapolate it to the world's biggest stage. And, if I'm going to put a shot on goal, it's, 1 out of every 40 that actually hits the net, right?
Right.
Like, okay. But Berhalter has been studying this, and he is a professional in this. How is it that we see it relatively clearly for how his chess pieces should be moving, and he does not? I feel like, one more thing.
Go ahead.
I feel like he has this predetermined plan and nothing else. There's no changing that plan. There's no calling an audible. There's no understanding how your opponent is playing and then tailoring your plan to outfox them. We go in with blinders on, we play our style and only our style. Oh, we lost. And
right.
That's it.
And Ron, I asked you, or maybe I said something when we were in Total Wine. You and I have both worked on a numerous number of projects to open something, right? Or to complete something at work, right? and a majority of you out there probably the same. How many times has that plan from day one gone exactly to plan with the
Never.
project that you're opening?
Not one time.
Right? So you have to adapt. You have to kind of evolve. You have to change some things. You might have to alter things because of budgetary concerns or coding or scheduling or any number of things, right? Same thing in a football match. If the opponent changes a piece on their board or moves around a piece on their board that you're not expecting or to counter something that you're doing, you have to counter. You can't go into the trap and get checkmated or else you're going to lose. Not that we lost here, but it feels like a loss because you were 1-0 up and you could see the game out with another goal or at least see it out to a 1-0 goal. But you always knew that Wales was going to change something to come at you in the second half. Yeah. That you're not prepared for that, or maybe you were, and maybe you thought this plan was going to work. That's what I would be more concerned about. It's you could sit there and you can go, man, that plan worked great in the first half. And it did. It worked fucking fantastic in the first half. And that's probably some of the best soccer that we've seen those group of lads play ever.
Yeah, that was
but
a
wasn't
phenomenal.
The second half. It wasn't the second half, and it's like, okay, job done. Boom, boom. Let's go into half. That's it. Great job, boys. And then, we're being smart here, but that's how it felt because it didn't look that way in the second half when their opponent, in this case Wales, makes a move, and you kind of sit on your hands for the next 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was. The whole team kind of looked like they let the air out of the balloon.
Yeah.
So that makes me think, because it was such a collective effort to kind of relax, were they just directed to kind of chill out?
I don't.
Because if so, I think that is a horrible idea.
Or if you're going to say that, then put 9 behind the ball and make it extremely difficult for Wales to break you down. But there's no need for that, and that wasn't the direction that you needed to go in this match. Because you need to boss the first half, and you can continue to do that in the second half had you made a couple of changes here. There's a number of things that when you look at who's on the roster for the U.S. that you could have done. You could have switched this to a 4-4-2. Mm-hmm. You could have switched it to more of a false 9 and put Aronson in for Sargent, as we said, not making it a full, not really a full goal scorer there, but you still got Timmy Weah in who got the goal earlier, and you still got Pulisic in that can make runs, play balls, and finish a ball. So there was a number of things that you probably could have done in this match to kind of change that. And let's hope for the next match that there's a little bit more of a, at the very least, let's adapt. Let's be adaptable if the time comes or if it's needed.
It's going to be needed.
Not a one track. It's going to be needed, right? It's not a one track mind going in against England and
who just blanked out.
Yeah.
6-2 over Iran.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Mixed metaphors. I don't mean blanked as in, zeroed them out, but I mean, they, for all intents and purposes, there was no real.
But it's only game 1. It's a draw. I'm not out of it. But it's going to be harder.
But now the pressure is
definitely on.
Way harder.
Yes, agreed. A 1-0 win or a 2-0 win going into a second game, you're allowed to try a little bit things. You can play a little bit more free. You can do this. And if you get a loss, it's not the end of the world. You got a win, or if you got a result that wasn't favorable to you. This is kind of like, ooh, okay, now this is a 3-legged race for who's going to be those top 2 teams.
Right.
And Wales has Iran next. They get a win. That really puts the pressure on the U.S. because now the U.S. needs to get a result from England and it needs to beat Iran next time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So very interesting day.
And if we drop points against England on Friday, Black Friday, and Wales wins, it's gonna be almost impossible to get out.
Very, very tough. Speaking of England, as we move on and kind of talk about the rest of Group B and then kind of hop over to Group A, as that was played one match today and one match yesterday. England trounced Iran. The Dutch see out a win against Senegal, and the host gets beat in the tournament's opening match. As we said, England trounced Iran, put 6 past them as goals from Jude Bellingham, Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, Jack Grealish, and a double from Bukayo Saka send the 3 Lions and their supporters back home into early jubilation. Have you seen some of those images from back in England?
Oh, yeah.
God, they
People
waste a
going
lot of
8.
beer, don't they?
Oh, I mean,
that beer goes flying everywhere.
I was surprised we didn't hear from Blake at all. I mean, I know he's busy, but Bukayo Saka scores, 2 of them, 1 assisted by Harry Maguire, which, to be honest, Harry Maguire should just stop playing Premier League soccer and only
Just play
international.
Yeah, fair.
Right? Because he's great.
Yeah, he put that ball right at his foot. That was, yeah, you're right. It's like a different human when he's playing for
it's
for
like
England.
for some reason it's like, and I don't mean this as kind of an insult, but it's almost like his brain functions while he plays at hyper fast speed only in the international.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can see him putting himself in a position to make a run. I mean, he pinged one off of the crossbar. Yeah, I think he pinged one off the crossbar. He had incredibly insightful ball placement, headers. Like he was all over the place.
Yeah.
Where's that in Man United?
I don't know. I mean, Shaw had an assist on one of the goals, and Shaw has been doing that a bit for United this year. But yeah, you're right. Harry Maguire just looks like he's a different person.
It's so weird.
Different person. I mean, and as you put 6 past Iran, Iran's ace Taremi, who probably should have started the game, but I know there was maybe some injury concerns there for something else. But he comes on and scores a brace, gets a questionable pen as his second goal, and then a pretty well taken goal for his first. And England wins 6-2.
Yeah.
That is a hell of a first game for England, who has been winless in their past 9, I think.
Yeah.
To come out with that sort of boom firepower, and the star of this match was the youngster Jude Bellingham, who first goal there for England, and then was just all around the midfield, just creating, passing, moving, ball. He looked a proper talent for England, somebody that they've kind of missed in that midfield to create.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Also, I mean, that no-look cross from
Kane,
Sir Harry of Kane, has no idea that Raheem Sterling is where he is, but knows that someone should be there.
Just play the ball
and
in.
No-look passes it, and Raheem Sterling stretches out a nice nimble leg and just rocket it into the back.
Takes it very well, because he also scores at the outside of the boot. It's like an outside of the boot volley.
Yeah, kind of. It's more like he pushes it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like it was a great goal. Rashford comes on, and with his third touch of the game, puts one just right in the back of the net and
calmly taken. Woof.
And how does? I mean, I would expect that Iran did their homework, right? And you watch game tape, or even if you don't, and you just watch the Premier League matches, he likes shifting to his favored foot. And
that was for Saka. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
As soon as he shifted it, they just let off.
They gave him the center of the field, essentially, or they gave him that inside track to score.
It was incredible that there was such little pressure on that.
Oh, yeah. This is the perfect start to England's World Cup. And there's so much confidence, so much promise. You might have your new number 10 in there with Jude Bellingham that can really be the star for you of this tournament. And, we won't get too carried away. The English media might get carried away, as they normally do. Iran's a tough team. didn't look great today. Their main striker didn't come on until late, and even then he still put 2 past them.
Yeah.
So Iran still tough. And England, I have a feeling, could go far in this tournament if they keep playing this way. We always thought they're going to get out of this tournament, but this has possible shades of promise to go further.
Yeah.
Moving over to Group A, which today it was Louis van Gaal's army.
LVG.
It took them 84 minutes before they were able to break down Senegal, a Sadio Mane-less Senegal.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it was announced last week, I think after we did the pod, that he will not take part in any part of the World Cup. But it took them 84 minutes to break them down, and a lovely in-swinging cross from Frankie de Jong allowed Corey Gangpo, who's been on fire this season over in Netherlands, but he was able to get up and get his head on it for the game's first, and then really late in stoppage time. We're seeing some really late stoppage times here, which we'll talk about in a second. But in the 99th minute, a strike from midfielder Davy Klaassen sealed all 3 points for the Dutch as Netherlands goes on to win 2-0.
So I think really the question out of this whole thing, how different is that match if Mane is in it?
Much harder.
Yeah.
Much harder for what he has to offer. And there was a couple of chances here where Nepert, who is the Dutch goalkeeper, and I don't know if I'm saying that entirely correct, but he was called upon. He had to make some big saves.
Yeah.
And they weren't easy. He had to dive down low for one and get one that was looking like it was going to sneak into the corner. Had one off of a corner, and he really was called on before the Dutch got there first.
Yeah.
And Depay was on the bench. There was injury concerns that he might be out. He came in the second half. He's going to offer more of a threat for the Dutch going forward. But Mane for Senegal is such a big loss because he is, and how many times have we talked about this with Liverpool? He's a match winner. He will get you a goal when you need a goal. He will have a threat to that back line.
Yeah.
And he will make sure that teams know who he is.
Sadly, it was not to be.
No.
For the Senegal.
And Louis van Gaal, he didn't look too pleased for most of the match, and rightly so. The Dutch
Does he ever?
Well, that's
really
true. But the Dutch weren't necessarily playing kind of the way they did all throughout qualifying.
Yeah.
They just kind of look like, hey, we just got here a couple days ago, and we really haven't pinged the ball back and forth to each other a whole lot, and we'll go out here, and we'll probably play, and should get a win. And that's kind of what occurred.
Right.
But real quick, you're seeing 99 minutes. There was, 10 minutes and 15 minutes of extra time in each half in the England game.
Yep.
There was, 9-10 minutes today in the U.S. game.
Yep.
And an interesting thing is, this seems to be, and we heard it on the commentary, that this is a FIFA, what's the word I'm trying to find?
Standard?
Not necessarily standard, but they kind of tell them to do something, not order, but a FIFA
commandment.
No, I don't know. Anyways,
direction.
Yeah, they kind of stick with the real time. They take the extra time literally, and they make sure it's as accurate and on point. When you think about it, most games probably have about 10 minutes of non-play just on various subs, on goals scored, on fouls called, on cards given out, on throw-ins, on any number of stoppages in play. There's probably, literally, if you were to time it, probably about 10 minutes or more with each game.
Right.
But that's never interpreted that way in the league play or even in most international tournaments. You kind of go, okay, that's a lot of stoppages. We can probably get that at 5 or 6 in a minute. And everybody's like, okay, because you usually don't see more than 6. If you do, you're like, holy crap. Well, for 2 straight days, we're seeing 90 plus 10, 90 plus 15. You're like, okay, I know there was an injury.
Yeah.
I know there was a goal. I know there was somebody carded. A few subs. But 10 minutes? Are we serious here?
So Qatar versus Ecuador, Total stoppage time played for the entire match, 10 minutes, 18 seconds. England versus Iran, 27 minutes, 60.
And there was a big injury to the Iranian goalkeeper in that match, which we forgot to
Netherlands
mention.
versus Senegal was 12 and a half minutes, and USA versus Wales was, 14 and a half minutes.
That's a lot of extra time.
Yeah.
It's not like it's 6 and at like 5 or 6 at the end of each half. That's like 4 and then 10. Like it's
so what an interesting thing that they're doing is that
initiative. That's what I was starting to think of. Sorry, earlier. Go ahead.
That's the word. Samsonite.
Wait.
Every time there's a sub, a minute is added. They take the actual injury time of each one and they round it to the nearest minute. Right. So right there, you've got minutes upon minutes of stoppage time. They also are calculating throw-ins and the time the ball goes out for goal kicks.
So they're literally like a stopwatch is almost as soon on the sideline just doing that.
Yeah. Huh. So that's why your stoppage times are so massive.
Interesting.
In the 2018 World Cup, the longest stoppage time of the entire group stage was a total of 8 minutes 52 played.
And we're beating that 10, 15,
easy,
20.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of Qatar, though, they get completely outrun and outplayed in their opening match, which was played Sunday, yesterday, as we were recording this pod. And they fall to Ecuador, courtesy of a former West Ham man, Enter Valencia's first half double.
He had a great match.
Gosh almighty, didn't he?
He also had a goal. He would have had a hat trick had his first goal stood, but it was flagged for offside in the buildup.
Which was confusing at first. Everybody was like,
Agreed.
What the hell? How and why did this happen?
So the weirdness of that, do you want to get into that right now?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the weirdness of that was Ecuador play a long diagonal ball, which is then pinged into the box, which is then bounced around a second, lands to Enter Valencia, who buries it right with his head. And after everybody's celebrating, life is good. Then they say, no, it's offside because the keeper came out.
It's a VAR check, which.
So, well, the punditry is saying
correct.
It's
correct.
It's on, and the commentators are saying it's offside. The keeper came out, and the way the ball was played, the player receiving the ball was behind the keeper, and that's offside. And I was like, "What?"
I know, that's what I was.
Everybody was just completely confused.
Yeah, I was at a pub with some of the team that I play Sunday soccer on, and we're like, "What the? Wait, what? What happened?"
Yeah, why would
that's not offside?
The keeper came
out. The keeper can come out, and there's a defender behind the keeper. Like, what the hell?
Two defenders. One
correct,
on the line,
yeah,
keeping the other people on side.
Yeah.
So for about, I don't know, a good 6 to 10 minutes, I think most people were very confused about who cares where the keeper is. Why is that offside?
Right.
But then we find out with the new offside technology where they don't use lines on the field, they have cameras that essentially create a 3D model,
triangulate your
animation of the play, and they can draw a hard line through where the offsides were and show you the offending body part, the offside body part of the,
what all can it draw?
So we find out that the offside was on the original diagonal ball,
which was a ways back of the play.
Which was
ways back of the play.
It was like 10 touches earlier. So that was really confusing. But in the end, they did get the right call because he was offside. But man, like if that's offside, and look, it was rightly called offside. Most of the attacker's leg was offside. Okay, so if that's offsides, great. There is the bar. Now it should be the same through the rest of the tournament.
Yes.
Good luck.
In theory.
Right? It was just, why did play have to go on so long?
Why did it take forever? Because we all thought, like, it looked, they kept showing the replays, like, oh, it's a good goal, it's a good goal, it's a good goal. We waited, and all of a sudden, you're like, wait, play hasn't resumed yet.
Right.
Oh, wait, he's touching his ear. Is he going, are they VARing this? What are they VARing this for? Potential foul on the goalie? A potential offsides? Like, what? So my first thought was exactly that. Well, it must have happened in the build-up to the play itself.
Right.
But the coverage over here in Fox was not showing that.
Right.
It was only showing that goalie come out and that ball played in. They kept going to that. And they were going to so it took a while. And maybe that was just confusion on the broadcast side of things. But I think it was just confusing in general as how far back did they go to get there. And it may have been within that time frame. And it obviously led to a buildup for them to get a goal. In the end, it didn't really affect the game that much.
Yeah.
I mean, Ecuador were the better team by far on the day.
Oh,
plenty more attacking chances, plenty more,
And one other thing
goals,
before,
and just better on the day. So, and in the end, it didn't affect anything. But yeah, quite interesting.
one other funny thing before we move on, and that is, did you think it was odd that the referee had to run to the next stadium to go look at the VAR booth?
What?
Like he had to. He not only did he just. Like, in Premier League, we're used to them going to the side opposite the benches, and there's a monitor right there.
And smack dab in the
that's
midfield.
not the way it was. He had to go behind, like, the dugouts, and there's a little broadcast booth back there, and then he had to go back into the tunnel to see and I just thought, where's this guy going to watch VAR? Just bizarre.
I mean, the whole thing's bizarre, right? We have a World Cup happening in November and December. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's our kind of Group A and Group B coverage as we sit here, the first 2 days of the World Cup, and get a lot more action. Tomorrow as we're recording this, so Tuesday starts the 5 a.m., 8 a.m., 11 a.m., and 2 p.m. games if you're on the East Coast. And if you're on the West Coast, I am so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That's what a 1 a.m. game, a 5 a.m. game, an 8 a.m. game.
It's 5 a.m.,
and then
it's 2 out there.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's stupid early to get up.
Stupid early.
Hopefully.
Or just don't go to bed. You have some decisions to make if you're on the West Coast. But what kind of beer news do you maybe have to help the people on the West Coast when they get up that early?
So not only is everything just kind of generally confusing in Qatar for everything, but 2 days before the tournament starts,
48 hours,
the Qatar government comes out. Well, let me rephrase that. FIFA comes out and says, after conferring with the local government, you're not allowed to buy beer in and around the stadium. Only at select fan zones,
which are nowhere near the stadiums,
which are way away from stadiums, and at specific hotels. That's it. No beer in the stadiums at all.
So the old bait and switch.
So yeah, there's a lot that goes on with all this, right? Not only do you have what is widely regarded as the Qatar government placating and yesing FIFA and everyone else to death, only to pull the rug out from under them, like Lucy pulling the football from Charlie Brown right at the very last second. But you also have FIFA, who's like, no big deal.
It's almost like they kind of knew, or like they weren't surprised that this was. And I don't think anybody's really surprised by this, but it's.
I think they are surprised by it because
you think FIFA's surprised by it?
No. But I think the general public.
Oh, yeah.
I have to write it down.
Well, and the other thing, FIFA's not just bamboozling everyone along with Qatar, but InBev and Budweiser, they're one of their big sponsors and has been for years and years and years.
So that's another part of this, right? Budweiser, who has spent the last part, as I covered, 2 pods ago, Budweiser InBev, or AB InBev, has been working on this for years, training people, figuring out where they're going to store product, building refrigerated areas so that their product can stay cold in the 120-degree daytime heat, all to have it yanked at the last minute, right? And it's not even like it's all removed from the stadium. There's not a single Budweiser ad, tent, umbrella, nothing that has Budweiser anywhere on it, right? But FIFA never comes out and explains why, right? In their statement, they basically say, following discussions between the host country authorities and FIFA, a decision has been made to focus on the sale of alcoholic beverages on the FIFA fan festival areas, other fan destinations, and licensed venues, removing sale points of beer from Qatar's FIFA World Cup stadium perimeters. There is no impact to the sale of Bud Zero, I added that part, which will remain available at all the Qatar World Cup stadiums. Host country authorities and FIFA will continue to ensure that the stadiums and surrounding areas provide enjoyable, respectful, and pleasant experiences for all fans. Now, there's kinds of two schools of thought. One, what can commonly happen at worldwide sporting events, be it soccer, the Olympics, Winter Olympics, what have you. It is possible for there to be alcohol-fueled fights between fans, right? Like that's happened all over the place.
Yeah.
If Qatar comes out and FIFA comes out and say, out of an overabundance of caution, we're going to only allow beer sales here and here and here and here, that is a completely different story than, yep, you can buy beer. Life is going to, oh, just kidding.
Right.
Completely
if
different
you come out
story.
from the start and say that, opposed to 2 days out when most people are getting there, most teams are already there, most sponsors, punditry, broadcast, guest, host, yada, 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 yada are there. Then you go, psych. And it's almost like, did the news drop on Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
It was almost like
it was timed,
but
deliberately timed.
But even then, they planned it wrong because you drop it at Friday at 5, not Friday at 5 a.m. Like so, like over here in the States, you're like you have all day to ruminate about it. If you're going to want to make a story disappear for a bit, which coming out of the World Cup, you really can't. Like it's the world stage at this point, but at least drop it at 5 o'clock when you know he's going home. They kind of forget about it. That's commonly what we do over here in the States.
Yeah, right.
But
that's
what a mess.
So then, the FIFA president,
Johnny Infantino,
he comes out with a quote that says, "We tried until the end to see whether it was possible." That's kind of a lie.
But why were you trying until the end?
Well, hold on.
Okay,
you weren't trying. Everyone had already announced that beer is possible. Not we were trying.
Yeah.
So
did you lie to everybody from the start?
Exactly. So you either lied to us in the beginning, which, surprise, it's FIFA.
Right.
Or you never had the permission, or you did, and now you're in some way backpedaling. But he goes on to say further, if for 3 hours a day you cannot drink beer, you will survive. Maybe there is a reason why in France, Spain, and Scotland, alcohol is banned in stadiums. Maybe they are more intelligent than us, having thought maybe we should be doing that. So that is what tells me FIFA screwed their sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
So now what's going to be even more interesting is what happens, how does the dust settle? Because this is millions and millions of dollars in ad revenue and actual beer sales revenue at the World Cup that AB InBev is missing.
Expecting at this point.
Right?
So we're expecting.
How they're only 2 years into their 10-year corporate sponsorship. So how's this all going to go?
New sponsorship.
The new contract.
New contract, yeah.
So this is going to be interesting to see.
You can buy Bud Light Next in or whatever the hell it is in the stadium.
the Bud
zero
Light
calories, zero carbs, and zero alcohol.
Ugh, and zero taste.
Yeah,
and
zero taste.
Just bring water.
What a mess.
So
Absolute
I'm sure as the World Cup goes on, new facts about that will come out, and I'll keep you posted on it.
There's as we discussed on our last pod, there are so many various storylines other than the game being played on the field with this World Cup. If you haven't, check out those podcasts, such as the Men in Blazers World Corrupts, such as the Lords of Soccer podcast, FIFA Uncovered on Netflix. Check.
Oh yeah, that's a great documentary.
Yeah, check all that out. You know that you can get a lot of facts from that. And you can kind of find out more of why we're saying this is a ridiculous World Cup. But we're here.
Yep.
And we got a big match. Big match. This Black Friday, as shoppers and frantic consumers are winding down from the crazed spending sprees, the U.S. men's national team will be kicking off against their across-the-pond revolutionary foes, England, in Group B's premier matchup.
Ooh. Oh, this is going to be rough.
What's your thoughts? Is it just going to be rough? That's it? Boom. That's the end of the segment. It's just going to be rough.
Well, I think we kind of covered some of it
Yeah.
just a shade earlier. England is not going to be nearly as forgiving as Wales was.
Very true.
They are much more clinical. They have much more creativity, especially coming out of that midfield.
More talent.
They have a lot more pace.
Yep.
In players like Kane, in players like Sterling, Mount, Rashford, Saka. Like, we can just keep going. Right?
Foden, Grealish.
So, to be honest, I'm not expecting all that much.
Not either. Well, let me ask you this: do you think that we're going to see a change to the starting lineup from Greg Berhalter's team today? And if so, who do you have in there to kind of help with this game going into this game? Whether we're going to sit back, make it hard for them, where we are going to be on the front foot and try to go after it. How do you think he's going to kind of set up his team in this?
So I think we learned some valuable things, of course, from all this, from this match against Wales. But I definitely think that you keep Musa in, and
hopefully he's fit. He's fine.
Yeah.
So far, that seems to be the case. But yeah,
you keep Weah. I think you keep that same midfield that we had.
So McKennie, Adams, Musa also. I agree. I don't think you, unless they are severely injured or risk of either further injuring their careers or whatnot, they have to play.
Yes, I think Dest in the back. I think you largely keep the back four, but Dest is out for Yedlin, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's some talks that could be Joe Scally.
Yeah, I just look Yedlin.
I could see Joe Scally playing that, and I would like to, in my opinion.
I think just you need someone who isn't. I have not been following Scally as much, so feel free to correct me. But I feel like Yedlin, having been there, done that, is not quite as shaky, is not quite as nervous as more or less new players to the World Cup. You need an anchorage in that back, and you need leadership in that back. And I think Yedlin can help you provide that with the likes of Walker Zimmerman, right? I thought Ream did a great job. I think Robinson covered more than the territory he was allotted to cover. And then up front, I think you keep Weah, you keep Pulisic, and you sub out Reina, assuming he's healthy, for Sargent.
Yeah.
If you're playing that 4-3-3 that Berhalter seems to really love. Personally, I think I would change it to the 4-4-2. But that's just
I think you probably keep the 4-3-3 for right now. I'm okay with that. However, I do think you switch out Joe Scally, a little bit more defensive minded, a little bit bigger, stronger of a lad. So I could see him coming in that right back spot. Now, I agree, as we said, that Adams, McKennie, Musa, midfield has to play, right? Now, my question is, and my thought is, if if I'm Greg Berhalter, am I wanting to add to that midfield even more, right? So do I put in a Kellen Acosta with them? Do I put on the Luca De La Torre? Probably not. A little bit slighter of a player. Slighter of a player. Probably not. Do you put Brendan Aronson in there and then kind of work that as a false nine, as we said, or really pack that midfield instead of making a triangle in there, kind of making that more of a tight diamond? You could do that. I think it stays. I think you have to have a way in there to offer some sort of danger to the opposition with some pace and movement on the wings, right? The backs of England are good, not great defensively,
right?
So you can exploit them a bit. Pulisic, I think what you could do here is you move him in up top, playing that false number 9 spot, and then bringing in a Gio Reyna maybe, or an Aronson to try to offer some creative talent if you get the ball and are able to counter. I don't see them going to a back kind of 5 or a back 3 as it is. I don't see necessarily Kellen Acosta getting a start in there with midfield as well. I think that just throws it up, and you have a double pivot in the midfield with Acosta and Adams, and you push McKennie and Musa up a bit more. You could. We haven't really seen that a whole lot, and I don't know if they'll go that route. So there's some options here, but I think for the majority of it, you might see the exact same lineup with only Dest maybe being that person you get switched out, because Josh Sargent is a more old school number 9 in terms of he doesn't mind the physical stuff. He'll hold it up a little bit more so than anybody else we have on our roster at the current moment. And he's used to playing against a lot of these players that he's going up against. Now, he didn't do great in the Premier League. He's doing pretty darn good in the Championship, which is getting him the spot that he's in right now. But yeah, I'm not, especially after today, not going into that with confidence. We come out of here with a draw where that's a pretty good result in my opinion, but can you keep England to only 1 goal, 0 goals? I don't know if we can.
That's a tall order. I mean, I'm willing to bet from an England standpoint, we see a very similar team to what we saw against Iran.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why you would want to switch that out. Looking at their I think they play the exact same. I don't necessarily know why they would want to switch that up.
I think
to be honest with you,
I think them playing a 4-2-3-1 with a back of Trippier, Stones, Maguire, Shaw. I mean, you're right. They're not Stones. I think Stones is the stronger of the center backs there. I think Harry Maguire did his best when he was kind of playing more forward, right? In an attacking sense. Not that he didn't play well defensively, but I think the reason we say he played so well is because of all of the, kind of assists that he had in helping to generate those goals, not from the back.
Yeah.
Right. Bellingham, obviously you're going to start him with such a bright,
agreed.
A bright start that he had.
Agreed.
Declan Rice.
You're going to start him.
You're going to start him because he's one of those midfielders that when everyone's just pinging the ball around the back, he gets the ball and just surges forward, right? And he is taking on midfielders and then kind of, electrifying the team to move forward when they've hit that lull of just pinging the ball around the back for a bit. So I think, those, excuse me, those 6 players are going to start. Mount was all over. He was great. Obviously,
I think he could be the one that could possibly switched out for like a Phil Foden or a Calvin Phillips, and you push Jude Bellingham up. But again, I don't think they're going to change the lineup a whole lot.
So the reason I think they don't is because he has such a good pairing with Sterling.
True.
Right?
True.
So
Yeah,
you're going to play Sterling. Put him in the middle. Those Chelsea teammates playing back
Foden's
and forth
more
to each
dangerous for me in terms of the attacking threat that you can get. You can really push
Sure.
our center backs on the States much more so than with Mount, in my opinion.
That's a fair assessment. But I think that's why he's a good person to bring on later when it's 1-1 and everybody's gassed.
What happened today, essentially?
You bring
for
Foden
England,
in and let him, clean up, right? And then obviously, English Jesus you're not going to change him out for anybody.
So you just hold Kane,
right?
Just hold Kane. So, all right, scoreline.
Oh, 3-1 England. Yeah.
No mercy.
No.
I'm going to be a homer as hell here.
Are you?
I'm going to go 1-1. I can't get myself to like a 2-1 victory over what I saw today, but I'll go a 1-1. That seems to be, when we play England a lot, that seems to be a very popular result.
Yeah. So
I will stick with the 1-1. Am I confident of that? I am 55% confident. That's not that good. But we shall see come this Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Big Fox.
Crazy.
Should be fun.
Just crazy.
Ron, what was the beer we had tonight?
We had, from Clown Shoes Brewing Company, Crunkle Sam's American Barley Wine.
And it is rather tasty.
Aged in bourbon barrels. But can I just be honest with you?
Go ahead.
I think you've been experiencing this the whole pod as I have. This beer makes me burp so much.
It's a little gassy.
I have been turning off my mic and burping to the side.
I've been trying to put my head over here, so I'm, yeah. It is. It's it kind of reminds me of is that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, that
the burping bubbles
that makes it. Yeah, that's what I
get you away from the stainless steel chopping fan.
Exactly. You want his Zlatan quote?
Oh, don't I always?
Who's not in the World Cup, mind you.
And we are all the poorer for it.
Okay. So, on being sent off for PSG at Stamford Bridge in the Champions League in 2015, when the red card happened, the worst thing was the Chelsea players. I felt there were 11 babies around me. There you go. Well, follow us on the Untaps, Instagrams, Facebooks. That's about it.
Twitters.
Yeah. We are on that. We are going to get up, by the time you listen to this, we'll have our World Cup brackets and predictions out on socials. We've been a little bit delayed with that. We were, in all honesty, having to wait on Blake to get his to get his from him.
I sent him a text tonight that said, "Look, you have got to get your World Cup bracket in tonight, or we are going to do it for you. And in the final, it's going to be Qatar versus Canada, and Qatar's winning."
Yeah. So we'll get that up on our socials. You can access us on any of your favorite podcasting applications: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And if you drop us a comment or give us a nice, what's up the 5 stars you can do on the old Apple now? 4 stars?
I mean, just leave us a comment,
Leave
take
us
a
a
screen
comment.
grab,
Yep.
send it on to one of our DMs.
One of our DMMs, the beautiful game at gmail.com too.
Yep. And we will send you out some Beautiful Game swag and get it on out to you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening, tuning in once again. Ron, always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Love the beer. Cherish the game. The beautiful game.
Go, go, USA!
USA, USA, USA.